About 3 months ago, your boy played and reviewed Reverse 1999. Long story short, within that video I said the game was good, combat was nice, the style of it was like liquid fun juice implanted directly into my cranium, and it had an amazing cast of characters, such as Lilia, who I couldn't get on the release. Regardless, I gave the game an 8 out of 10. It all came together to make such a great package of a game, but I didn't continue playing it because your boy has no time. Possibly because I'm playing for the gachas, but I greatly do not wish to publicly announce that fact, so instead, let's just forget it. However, I was going to return to the reversing of 1999 when new main story content dropped, which is why your boy decided to pull up for the release of 1.4 because we got Chapter 5 in the game. Now, that was going to be the intro of this video, but before the release of 1.4, your boy got a sponsorship offer for Reverse 1999, which is why I'm happy to say that this video is sponsored by itself. I'm especially happy to say that as your boy was going to pull up sponsorship or not, but don't you dare tell them I said that, alright? We keeping that little factoid hush hush. But with all that being said, let's detail what it was like to return for version 1.4 of Reversing 1 before 2000. So I entered in and was greeted by the ability to get a free 5-star that I wanted. Now, I'm a big proponent of waifu over meta, so I did not tab and double back to Predin and consult the tier list. I would never do that. But after getting Charles Babbage, I decided to sate the not so well hidden gambling addiction of mine and check which banners were up. Since it was a minute since I last reversed my 9s, there were some interesting characters to go for, like Calibana, Saw Death Trap, 37, an Arknight's character, and 6. It may surprise you to hear, only 2 of those names were made up. Now your boy was planning on yoinking 37, but all plans for banners were thrown out the window when I saw Lilia's banner was getting a rerun. I was like a bloodhound having smelt some raw beef, like an AI artist looking for new material to steal, like a shipper about to write a 40-page fanfic after seeing my 2 favorite characters briefly stare into each other's zip code. I was determined. I had a goal, a character to roll for. The pity was at 0, as before I took my hiatus, I kinda got God tier RNG and rolled Millennia in a single pull. But with the goal of getting a venerable vodka drinker for my roster, I moved into the main story. Starting with the first node of Chapter 5, Bon Voyage. The story for Chapter 5 begins where any good one does, in the horrific seas with a boat that is about to sink, filled with 4 people, an apple, and a radio. Yeah, in case you did not know, the character designs go kinda wild in this game. Now due to the predicament they're in, Regulus decided that the fault for it lies with the radio. It's what led them out to the sea, and because of this, she must be working with the enemy, Manus Vindicte, which causes her to violently grab the radio and interrogate it, as, yes, the reasonable thing to do before being sent to Davy Jones's locker is to have a white-knuckle grip on a sentient radio as it pleads to not be opened up. Now, you may have pieced this one together, but some members of this squad may not be the most well-adjusted. But before we talk more about their imminent doom, let's go back to figure out how this situation happened. So prior to the Watery Grave, Vertin was being given more autonomy to have her own faction, viewed as an independent group, which plays off the guerrilla warfare protest we did back in Chapter 4. And the purpose behind that was to give Vertin more freedom and not fully tie her to the Foundation. It's definitely an interesting concept. I would really like to see Vertin grow her own faction, as the 2 others we can join, Manus and the Foundation, feel about as trustworthy as playing Russian roulette with 6 rounds loaded in the chamber. But the first mission of this new independent group is to investigate a way of surviving the storm, which led us to the ocean, and then led us to fighting a sea leviathan. Now my team wasn't precisely the most overpowered or really built due to my hiatus, but I had one thing on my side, strategy. We all know that shit's a lie. I had Kornbloom who was broken as fuck. In case you need a demonstration on her being broken, here's a single target skill for my next best unit. Here's her multi-target skill by comparison. Now on Predin, she's listed as an S tier support, and of that I agree. She heavily supports you in wiping the DNA of your enemies off the face of the earth. Now with me hopping into her backpack and having her run a quarter mile, this fight was easy as shit. But due to the fact that the Apple II, yes, that's the name of the ship, was built like a high school science experiment, it eventually sank, the crew along with it. And so Vertin woke up on these shores with this creature peering into her soul. This is 37. Don't question the name. But 37 tells Vertin that this island is in the year 2007, which is off as the whole name of the game is 1999 reversed. We are going back from the year 1999, so how is this island past that year? And more importantly, why is homie yapping about numbers so much? And before we get an answer to that, this Tumblr sexy man pulls up, says that integers and fractions are welcomed but not irregulars, whatever the hell that means, and then he plans to throw Regulus into the sea. Again. But we were able to negotiate and instead throw her into the dungeons. Not much better, but it's whatever. Then 37 swoops in from the shadows, munches on Regulus, and tells us the ultimate sin of the island, eating beans. Ayo, what the oh my god, we found Peak. So this is Sophia. She already ranks top 1 in terms of reverse 1999 designs for me. It's literally perfect, and yes, I'm talking about the red hair. But I was devastated to find out that she's not a playable character. Blue Pac, homies, I'ma just say it. Release her as a playable unit and I will become an acolyte for this game. I just ask for this one thing and I will glaze the game on the daily. Hell, I'll follow the rules of the island. I'll forsake coffee beans for her to become a playable character. I don't give a damn. You can give her the most dog shit kick known to mankind and I will still be happy with her being out. And as I was sipping on main for the best character in this game, these creatures came in and took Regulus away with them because she broke a taboo. The taboo of picking up something which is fallen. Well, she'll be fine. Regardless, we're off to the Hall of Empyrean to see more about the storm. Now, since the party is new to this place, code word for they're considered to be troglodytes, they need to stay quiet. So they get in and 37 takes the stage, talking about their efforts towards understanding the storm. She says all methods to calculate it have failed and the last 4 years they spent on trying to understand it have gone completely to waste. Which maybe isn't the best or happiest thing to hear, but that's not important. What is important is that the leader of Manus is here. And remember when I said that she was less trustworthy than playing Russian roulette with 6 rounds loaded in the chamber? Well, I no longer care about that. I want to join Manus. Now unfortunately, some like Soneto cannot understand my vision when I say that, so she instead pulled out her piece at the function and spoke. Yeah, which means she broke the taboo, the main one we had to follow within this place, 0.2 seconds after walking into the building, and will now be put on trial to determine if she should be executed or not, which is definitely an important thing, but I also need roles for Lilia, so let's do the side event stuff real quick. Now, one of the mini-games was deducing logical puzzles. Makes sense given how the island is filled with people who have a body pill of the quadratic equation. Now for these puzzles, since I'm a genius, I had no trouble whatsoever in solving them. They were all handled in a fraction of a second, but your results may vary. An IQ issue, to be honest. There's also a mini gacha for awards. Getting everything is guaranteed, but it'll take some time. And my RNG in that was, well, I just hope this isn't foreshadowing for my Lilia pulls. Regardless, I decided to scrounge for any source of pull, test my combat capabilities within the boss rush. Now I kinda clowned on all the bosses by having Bokorenbloom show I chose my first Insight 3, but the final one may have possibly, not entirely confirmed, almost kinda sorta maybe took me over an hour. Now, I take none of the blame. You can definitely say that my strategy was lacking as my healer was built like tinder in a bonfire whilst given the healing equivalent of a Happy Meal. And the last event minigame that is available for now was Verton's Adventure in the Backrooms, in which I spent 30 minutes trying to figure out this ice puzzle. I don't got much to say for myself. I thought the Pokemon ice puzzles had prepared me for this fate, but I just kinda got my ass whooped. Regardless, the important part is the roles I received. Now you may have been wondering what's happened with the Lilia pulls. Let me clue you in. From the return of stuff to the event drops and bank stuff, I had easily gone 65 pulls, which is great because the hard pity is at 70. So I went to roll and used every single pull. And at the final one, the final pull that I went through all the side event content for, the story content, hell, old content I had yet to do on challenge mode, the apex of my grinding efforts, I got that. Well, she, I suppose kinda looks like a younger sister for Lilia, if you really want to find a stretch. The good news is that the next 6-star I get will be Lilia, and with that being the case, let's go and save Soneto from getting executed. Yes, I'm doing this for her sake. Totally not so I could gain more roles. Now this trial is an interesting one. It isn't predicated on any basis of emotion. Since the people of this land really love numbers and are basically acolytes of Pythagoras, the debate is done in a very mathematical way. So instead of saying something like, oh shit dog, we're sorry, Soneto saw basically our mortal enemy and was kinda a little scared, which is why she went to defend herself, would it work as a simple fact of outsider violated taboo is enough evidence to view her as guilty. The reason doesn't matter, only the result. So once Soneto says she doesn't have a number, people are already discarding her points. Since those without numbers cannot enter the hall, then anything she says is invalid, as the idea of a person without a number being in the hall is already invalid. You see, it's all about making the other person's proposition illogical. And building off that same logic, 37 proposes that the death penalty is too harsh, as that is given to those who break the ultimate taboo, eating beans. So if Soneto's situation equals that, then eating beans is no longer considered the ultimate taboo. Therefore, her sentence needs to be lightened. It does feel like you're trying your best to take these statements and expose it within a light of false equivalency, thus making anything the other party says invalid. But this, Jesus Christ, this hunk of a man, counters by saying the methods of death are different, thus changing the severity of it, which is when Vertin picks up on the debate, and retorts that if people without a number cannot stand in the hall, then it was impossible for Tsunul to break a law in the hall, as she shouldn't have ever been in there. She doesn't have a number, and with that she couldn't have offended their truth, as those without numbers do not exist before it. But she's met with the retort that Tsunul has a number, it is just unknown, and those with no numbers are negative if they've committed a crime, which is when Vertin counters by saying since we don't know her number, it's like Schrodinger's cat. If we cannot definitely say what her number is, she's either positive with having committed no crimes or negative and a criminal, which doesn't make any sense. Therefore, she's an unknown number who does not belong to any label of innocent or guilty. She's both at the same time, which creates a paradox. And that was really damn clever, but since Vertin also doesn't have a number, then she should not be in the hall at all, thus making all of her arguments invalid. That is until the one who can see everyone's numbers, 37, swoops in and says she has a number, 0, thus causing her arguments to be valid and in so proving a paradox that saves Tsunul. I know it sounds a little weird, and hell, even this beefcake of a man talks about the debates seeming childish, but I really love the idea of debates that feel like a mathematical equation, where you're trying to not appeal to emotion, but instead to invalidate what the other person is saying, which is part of the overall storytelling for this chapter that I really loved. And it took that concept of proving or disproving something into existence and made it reveal much more important things later. But I don't wish to cover all the story, as I believe it's best experienced. I didn't think a story about numbers and people's perception of them would really be interesting, but it found a way to take a very emotional turn to it. And for a chapter that starts with interrogating a sentient clock, yeah, I'd say it took me through a journey to reach that point, which is why I can recommend playing the newest chapter of Reversing from the Integer Number 1999, as 1.4 was basically everything I wanted out of a new story update for the game. The plot got more interesting with nice world building, the gameplay was more challenging, and the new characters were amazing. Granted, I still have the 100% Lilia bias, but the main story made me grow to really like 37, which is why I'm happy to say that I will not stop grinding until I have a max portrait Lilia.